We're now being joined by the Commissioner for Information at Rivers State, Mr. Austin Tam-George. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Mr. George, that report by our correspondent Emmanuel Way, we do know that Rivers State, Port Harcourt in particular, has a lot of activity, refineries, oil companies, burning of tires, daily living by the people. That was 3 days ago. You issued a statement. Can you just summarize your statement for us? One of the things you said was that the samples have been sent to a lab. Why and how did you get to that?
Well, when these black suits started appearing, on cars parked overnight, even on windows, on floors of sitting rooms, the Ministry of Environment swung into action immediately and sent different teams to different parts of the state. We were working very closely with that ministry. As the Ministry of Information, we are working very closely with the Ministry of Information, and what they suspect is that there are a range of factors. The hypothesis is that they probably have illegal refining activities around the state. There's also the likelihood of the black soot originating from gas flares by major oil companies. And the burning of tires in some areas as well. So what they have decided to do was to say, rather than pin it down to just one cause, why don't we do a laboratory test in order to determine the actual origin of the black soot? The findings are still being awaited. In my statement I released some 2 days ago, we are telling residents to stop the burning of tires. We are urging major oil companies to look at ways of using alternative strategies rather than just flaring gas. Because, the UN released a commitment some months ago where the emphasis now is on, healthier, more sustainable livelihood. And so what we are doing, working with all the agencies of the state, is to make sure that we have a better environment, we have a healthier air to breathe. So we are working on it. The Ministry of Information is working very closely with the Ministry of Environment. We are trying to determine the origin of this black soot.
Okay. Talking about the environment, let's look at the security environment in Rivers State. It's been tense for a while now. What's going on?
Inyota, there is this mythology that Rivers State is not safe. That is not correct. If you look at the pattern of violence, that has characterized the political dispensation we are in, you'll see that the situation is worse, in fact, in many places. In the whole of the Northeast, for instance, as you know, we have over 70,000 people that have been killed in the Northeast. Over the past 7 years, more than 6 million people displaced. In Kaduna, we have what looks like a low-level insurgency already underway. The whole of southern Kaduna is under siege by so-called Fulani herdsmen. Here in Lagos, we've seen intercommunal clashes between Hausas and Igbos in Mile 12 area, where about 12 people were killed, over 40 cars burnt in just one incident. We've had pockets of audacious criminal activities in Ogun State and elsewhere. So we've seen a pattern of insecurity and violence characterizing the kind of political system that we run. In Rivers State, we've had episodes of violence, sometimes criminality in some sections, not all of it, but some sections of the state. We have taken unprecedented steps. In fact, as I speak now, there are over 60 APCs, armored personnel carriers, donated, by the state government. Within the first 3 months in office, Governor Wike gave over 100 security-fitted vehicles. He continues to give financial and logistical support to the Joint Security Forces. We have a very efficient security architecture in Rivers State. And so, this is not something that is out of control. Are we denying that there are episodes of security challenges? No. But the situation is totally exaggerated, and we are very much in control of the situation.
When you say it's totally exaggerated, a lot of people will argue with you that's not being true. Because, I mean, for instance, in the papers today, 8 people were killed yesterday by unknown gunmen. Rivers State, I mean, Port Harcourt used to be called the Garden City, but the garden nature seems to be disturbed by news of violence, pockets of violence here and there. And you used an example of pockets of violence across the country. But we're talking about Rivers State.
Yeah, we are talking about Rivers State, and I know, I just admitted that we have had, over the past few months or so, incidents of criminality. I mean, this is a city, and you'll find that there will be crime at one point or the other. What is our response to criminality? That's, I think, the most important thing. And I just told you, we have an aggressive policy against crime. We, for instance, had the amnesty program, where over 22,000 youths surrendered to the program. We have a rehabilitation scheme we are working out, but we are not looking at crime and criminality as isolated cases. We are looking at them more as sociological symptoms of economic deprivation. And so our strategy is to make sure that while we adopt the law and order approach, we also adopt an economic model that empowers those who are totally economically disentitled. And so, it's very easy to always talk about criminality in terms of people committing crimes, but we need to understand the energizing purposes. Why are people resorting to crime? We are in a recession, and a lot of people are disentitled economically. And so what we are doing is to say, okay, while we respond to criminality by using law and order approach, we also want to make sure we support, give vocational and entrepreneurial support to young people who are willing to work. And that was what led to the amnesty program. Before the amnesty program, the governor had given, given a 2 billion naira to 35,000 small and medium scale entrepreneurs in Rivers State. A similar, agricultural loan that was taken by the previous administration, 4 billion naira loan from the central bank, was simply used to fund APC activities. I'm saying this because in retrospect, if that money were better used, young people would have had a lot of involvement in agricultural enterprise. So what we are doing is to make sure we support the joint security forces, but we also have a range of economic responses to economically empower people.
Mr. Tam-George, the fact that your government's giving out money sounds like what's been going on over and over again, where government takes money and throws at situations on ground. But let's just go. We'll come back to that. Let's go back to Abuja. Markwe has a few questions. Markwe?
I thought you were going to wrap up with your questions, Nyota, but thank you for bringing me in at this time. First of all, let's talk about the the physical environment before I move to the security environment, which is what you're dwelling on right now. But I would have thought that by now, I mean, while the Rivers State government is still investigating, the cause of the soot in the air, the people would have been advised to wear masks, pending whenever the investigation is out, at least as a protective measure. Is the Ministry of Health doing anything in that regard?
There's an aggressive enlightenment campaign that is going on. The question of wearing masks, that's probably something you'll find a lot in China, and it's probably a good suggestion. It's only symptomatic of the seriousness of the situation. What we are doing in Rivers State is to make sure we strike at the very root of this black soot. The suspicion is that is happening because of a variety of reasons. There's the burning of tires at night in several locations, and that has to stop. There's also illegal refining, maybe not necessarily happening in Rivers State, but in the neighboring states. And these things are sometimes airborne, and so we are looking at a range of likely causes. And I think that in the next week or two, after laboratory tests have been revealed, there'll be a more decisive and accurate response to the problem.
Well, for a lot of people, this is not going to come as any surprise, because when you look at the operating environment, that's in terms of the pollutants in the air, the fact that, you know, the oil companies have been operating there for a very long time, the illegal oil bunkering happening on the part of militants and those people who decide that they want to steal crude. I think there have been some predictions by the United Nations that we should be getting ready for higher cases of cancer and a host of other diseases in the Niger Delta. Is this a threat that the Rivers State government, is it a threat, not a threat by them, but I mean, is this a concern that they take very seriously?
Oh yes, we take this very seriously. As you know, Mark, you know, oil prospecting activities have been on in the Niger Delta area since 1958. And part of what has characterized the carbon economy has been, you know, devastation to the environment. And part of what we are seeing now may be, you know, a manifestation of that kind of exploitative activities regarding how oil and gas, you know, are extracted from the ground. Yes.
We'll come back to look at how this processes work together after this break.